Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first. When I was 8 years old, my family and I moved to a small town in the Midwest, and it was a farm town. It was built in like the early 1800s. I think it was part of like the Homestead Act or something. It was, had a bunch of acres, a barn that had burnt down. Like it was an active farm back then. Lots of history. People definitely passed away on the property, that we knew for sure. And man, it wasn't like very obvious as a child. I was super intuitive and I didn't know what to do with that intuition, so I naturally got a Ouija board. And of course I dragged along my best friend and my sister and a couple other friends on this Ouija board journey, where we would go and sit at the top of the stairs to the basement, and we would turn all the lights off and turn candles on and then ask this thing questions, and it responded. And I don't tell people this story, it sounds psycho. The fact that other people are there to verify all of these things and validate gives me inner peace, but I don't tell people. But it worked. And unlike what I thought would happen when it would move, even when we'd lift all of our hands off of it, it's still moving, is how aggressively it moved. It wasn't gentle, it was like very sharp. And so much time would pass when we were in there talking to this entity as well. Like we would think 10 minutes went by and it would be 2 hours. Like insane. Being little kids, we wanted to know questions and answers like, who are we going to marry when we grow up? Or how many kids are we going to have? Or just questions like that. And every single time we start, it would give us answers at first, like, and it would tell us about itself. We would say like, what's your name? And it would just say demon, D-E-M-O-N, like over and over again. When we would ask questions about me, at first it would like give us answers, and then it would just spell bitch repeatedly, B-I-T-C-H, B-I-T-C-H, B-I-T-C-H. Horrifying. Like any question about me. Also, sorry if I seem lackluster, I already told this whole story and it deleted. It was so freaky. Also having like visuals of like hands reaching towards the planchette, like in the candlelight flicker. This entity gave us details saying that it was like buried in the cemetery, a cemetery that was like local, like the name was legit. It gave us like, I think it either gave us a plot number or it was just like the last name, and we did go there, and what we found was crazy. Part 2 to the unbelievable but completely true ghost story that was my childhood with my Ouija board experience. Before I get started, I did not sleep from watching y'all's stitches of your horror ghost stories, and I believe all of you, and I moved the mirrors away from my bed so quickly last night, and then I fell down a rabbit hole of like blue sage and cedar and juniper, and anyway, neither here nor there. So I got some new coffee. I also ordered some more. They sell it on TikTok Shop for way cheaper than where I was buying it, which, yeah, now I know about TikTok Shop because of this video, so thank you. Anyway, I went digging, y'all, to find what documentation I had, because, I never shut my mouth up back then. I was, like, on Tumblr and MySpace and Facebook. I'm like, I know I wrote about this somewhere. And I looked and I found my Facebook statuses, so here they are. So basically it says that the person we were talking to on the Ouija board claimed to be an 86-year-old woman, and we asked if I was going to have a child or if I was going to get married, like the MASH questions. And then we asked if there was, I think this is this one. Yeah, we asked where she was, and she said in between life and death. And then called me a B-I-T-C-H. And then we have this other one where we ask, is there anyone else who would like to speak to us? And it says yes, and then we say who, and it says demon, and then we said why, and it spelled out he knows God. Like, mind you, we all were lifting our hands up, like, watching it move. I completely forgot about this till I read it. And then we kept trying to ask innocent questions, like, what am I going to go to college for? B-I-T-C-H. Drinking this coffee to stay awake. I'm never going to sleep again. Send me your energy healing tips. But, anyway, the demon that we were speaking to lied. Told us that it was buried in a cemetery. My friend says we were talking to multiple entities. I personally think we were just talking to a demon. Also, I always stutter in the morning, so. But I'll tell you a little bit more about what my friends have to say. My one friend is a mother, so she's obviously tending to her child right now and can't respond right away, and my other friend is a cop. So we're all living lives, probably trying not to think about demons. I'm just weird, I guess. Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Okay, perfect, because I have one, and it's actually like a really good story, and it's a story that I honestly don't even think I've told anybody. But when I was 16, I lived literally in the middle of BF nowhere. I was in Texas, and I got a bicycle for my 16th birthday, and I was super excited because that meant I basically had like my freedom. So I would just ride around on my bicycle, and since I was in the middle of nowhere, like it was just like a bunch of like dirt roads, and and you would end up in like the back of people's properties, and like it was like rural, like nobody really cared what you were doing out there. So I realized if I went about like half an hour ride on my bicycle, I would get to the edge of this person's property, and in the back of their property they actually had a graveyard, and it was a really old graveyard. A lot of the tombstones were listed from like really, really late 1800s to like early 1900s, like 1903. Like they're really, really old. And it was so obvious that nobody kept up with the graveyard. Like everything was dirty and overgrown. And of course, like I thought I was like 16 and edgy and cool, so I'd go hang out in the graveyard. But then eventually I started going there maybe like once or twice a week, and I started cleaning things up just because I felt bad about these people who were obviously like forgotten about. And I remember there was these 2 headstones that I was specifically attracted to, and I'm assuming the woman died like in childbirth, or like her and her kid must have gotten ill around the same time. But it was like a woman, and she, from like her birth date to like her death date, was literally around like the same age as I am, like right now. And I was just like, what's such a shame that she, died so young, and then like her baby's tombstone was like right next to her. Well, I would just go and I would like clean everything up. Well, this one day, I honestly, and I'm not someone who really I believe in the paranormal just because I've seen a couple of things that I can't explain, but I do feel like a lot of paranormal things aren't actually real and it's just people making shit up. But like this actually happened, and I went to the graveyard that day. Up until then, I had never felt anything creepy. I never felt weird. Everything was always really chill. And I was over at their tombstones, like just cleaning everything up, pulling some weeds. And mind you, it was a completely still day. Like there was no wind. It was the middle of the summer. It's hot outside. There was literally no wind. And I'm sitting there and I'm like cleaning things up, and I get the strongest smell of perfume. Like I'm talking, it suddenly smelled like I was standing in the middle of like a field of flowers. Like it was just like super strong. And I felt not like dread. I don't think dread is the right word, but I felt like this overwhelming feeling of like, you need to leave. Like you need to get out of here. And it was calm. It didn't feel threatening. I just felt like it was almost like audible, like someone told me like, you need to leave. And I literally remember like I didn't even think twice about it. I was like, I need to get out of here. And I literally like packed up all my little things. I always have like my little headphones. I didn't put my headphones in. I got on my bike and I pedaled my ass back home so fast. And like I just remember having the feeling of like, you need to leave and you can't come back. And I left, and literally, like, that was it. Like, I stopped going. I didn't go back there. I never felt threatened by whatever was out there, but I just felt like, you can't go back. Like, this, you need to not come back here. 2 weeks later, it was in the news that a woman who had been jogging along that same road that I rode my bike almost every single day was abducted and killed by somebody, and they never found out who. And to this day, I really feel like whether it was that woman whose headstone I was cleaning or somebody else in that graveyard who maybe just appreciated the fact that I cared about them, gave me that warning to leave and kept that from, happening to me. So that's my story.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
I've got one for you. So when I was 19, I moved into this house after a breakup, and I found this room on Facebook Marketplace. This girl was selling her room or whatever, subleasing it, and it was, I think, $250 a month, and I was like, yeah, let's go. So I moved into this place, and it is a very old home. It was made out of local stone, and it was on this block that all the houses were made out of local stone, and if they weren't made out of local stone, they would not still be standing. I'll just say that. They're very old. So this house had been converted into separate apartments, and I was living in a room that you had to walk through a bathroom to get to, and this room is also connected to another bedroom, but we just put like furniture in front of it, so it kind of felt like a bedroom. So that's where I was staying. And the first night that I was sleeping there, I was woken up out of a dream, don't know what I was dreaming about, and I saw this woman just like hovering over me, looking at me. And I looked at her for a few seconds, and when she realized I was looking at her, I just saw her eyes get really wide and she looked nervous and she disappeared. And I've never really given that a lot of credit because I was waking up out of a dream. Sometimes you just see things. I don't know. But then the next day when I was leaving to go do something else, I was opening my door, going through the bathroom to get out of the house. I swore that I saw someone like crouched in the corner of the shower. And I thought that was weird. But because the night before and how I was like, that was probably just a dream. I'm probably just paranoid right now. I'm not going to give it any credit. So time goes on, right? And I get a cat. Love the little thing. She's precious. And it gets to a point where, I'm 19. I'm full-time college student. Her food was more expensive than mine, and I couldn't afford to keep her anymore. So one of my friends took her, and I noticed as soon as she was gone that things started to get a little hairy. Like from that day forward till I moved out, every single day something happened. Didn't matter if it was daytime, nighttime, or anything. But that little figure that I had seen crouched in the shower was a little boy, and he was very upset that my cat was not there anymore. So what did he do? He terrorized me. Like, it got to the point where I had to rearrange my room so when I would wake up and roll over in the middle of the night, I wouldn't see him because he would stand in the corner where I had my cat's stuff as if like protesting that she was gone. And that was every single night from that point on. During the day, I would have hangers and clothes fly out of my closet. Did not matter. Door would open, closet and clothes would just fall out. And it became a normal thing, like I would see him and I wouldn't think twice about it because I didn't want to engage. I didn't want to encourage it. So what I would do is I wouldn't say anything. If he was really scaring me, I'd go to someone else's house. I just dip out because like child spirits, you don't really know if it's a real child or not. I think this was a real child because he was just throwing tantrums and taking it all out on me. The scariest thing that ever happened with him, though, was I was doing laundry one day. I guess my cat had probably been gone for a couple months now, and I'd become adjusted to seeing him. It wasn't anything new. And I was folding my laundry on my bed, and I watched him crawl out of my closet, look at me, and crawl underneath my bed. It actually makes me sick to my stomach, even thinking about it, because I don't know if you've seen any scary movie. It was horrifying. So yeah, I dipped. I didn't come back for like 2 days because that was horrifying. And before I left, though, I did get on my hands and knees and look under the bed to see if he was there. One of the bravest moments of my life, he wasn't. And at that point, I was already done. I didn't care that I didn't see him. I was done. So, I mean, my laundry was clean. It didn't matter. I dipped. And from that point on, it never got that bad again, but he was almost always in the shower when I would be leaving. And the way that our bathroom was set up, like the mirror faced the shower, and there would be times where like I would be getting ready. I'm crying. I would be getting ready, and I would see his little stinking head pop up in the mirror. And I had to start sleeping with a face mask because I would roll over in the middle of the night and he would either be in the corner of my cat's stuff or he would be at the end of my bed or he'd be in another corner. Like it was something straight out of Insidious. And I'd say that's one of the worst ghost stories I have at that house, definitely, because I never saw that woman again. There was one figure I kept seeing in the kitchen, but I never saw their face. They only stood with their back to me. So, I think our timelines were just crossing or something. But no one else in the house that lived there ever had any encounters that I know of. And yeah, So that's how I was terrorized by a little child, ghost, spirit, for having to get rid of a cat, for being poor, essentially.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go.
So I have a story from when I was 17 years old that to this day is unsettling to me and scary, and I still don't even know what to make of it, to be honest. But when I was 17, my best friend at the time, Matt, wanted to go visit his brother in Mississippi. Matt's brother was stationed in Mississippi with the Navy, and he lived in this house with his girlfriend and this other guy who was a Navy SEAL. I never met him, but I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so the whole plan was to go to Mississippi, hang out with Matt's brother, and then we were going to go to New Orleans and go hang out on Bourbon Street and do all that. The drive was about 2 or 3 hours for me and Matt. So while we're driving there, Matt decides to tell me then, hey, by the way, my brother's house is haunted, ha 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 ha. They've been having some problems, isn't that crazy? And I immediately got irritated that he didn't tell me that before. And if you guys don't know this about me, I grew up in a haunted house, and my parents had to have priests come through and bless the home and all that. So there's history there for me, and it's just uncomfy to me, and I don't want to be around it. And that's it. So we end up getting there. I meet Matt's brother and his brother's girlfriend, and they're super cool, and we're all talking, hanging out. They're telling us about, what's been going on and all that stuff, and it was getting really bad for them. But they end up telling us a story about what happened in that house. And the story is really sad because it was a mother and her son, and the son was playing in the driveway, and he ran into the street and got hit by a car and passed away. And the mother, being depressed, on the ceiling fan in the living room. Guess where me and Matt were sleeping? In the living room, underneath the ceiling fan. And yeah, so first night, Matt decides to get really drunk, and everyone else goes to sleep. It's midnight, Matt blacks out, and he's dead asleep. And I'm laying on the floor in the living room next to Matt. We had blankets and pillows, and we had a big flat screen TV in front of us, and I put on something happy. And I put on the movie Jackass. And I'm sitting there, and I'm slowly nodding off. And do you know when you're sitting at night in front of a TV screen and you can kind of see the light flashing over your eyelids? You can see the screen almost. So yeah, I was seeing that. So as I'm falling asleep, I start feeling footsteps pressing into the carpet around my body. And I thought it was maybe Matt. So I turn and look, and Matt's sleeping. So it wasn't Matt. And the footsteps keep walking around my body, especially around my face. I feel the carpet pressing in around me. And my body goes into this state of fear. I was frozen. I felt paralyzed, and I didn't know what to do. And next thing you know, the screen in front of me goes black. And I can hear Jackass playing, but it's just black. And I feel a heavy presence standing over me. And it felt like there was somebody standing over me, which is so unsettling to think about. And I start praying. That's the only thing I feel like I was able to do. I just started praying, God, protect me, put a veil over me. I don't want to see this. Please go away. I didn't know what to do, and I end up falling asleep. Don't know how, but I did. And yeah, we wake up. I told them what happened. They're like, oh yeah, that's, she walks through the hallway, she walks through the living room. And I was like, okay, that's creepy. So fast forward to the middle of the day. Matt's brother and his girlfriend, they go to work, and me and Matt are just hanging out at the house. We're in a good mood. We're not even thinking about anything, and we're sitting in the kitchen. So we're sitting in this round table in the back. So basically, I'm sitting here, and Matt is you, and behind me is a doorway, a little bit further back behind me, and it goes to the front door, and then the hallway down to the bedrooms, and then the living room. So me and Matt are eating boiled peanuts, talking, laughing. I have photos from this day, and we are in a great mood. And Matt looks right past me, and he goes, I'll name Matt's brother's girlfriend, Sarah. He goes, Sarah. And I'm like, Matt, Sarah's not here. And he goes, Sarah. And I was like, Matt, Sarah's not here. And then the door slams at the end of the hallway. And me and Matt spring up without saying a word to each other and haul ass out of that house. I've never ran so fast in my life, like genuinely. Like we sat outside of that house until his brother and his brother's girlfriend came back. And we did not go back in until they came back, and we told them what happened. And they said, like, it's normal, it's been happening, and it's creepy. So that's pretty much all we experienced, at least that I can remember. And fast forward to what I heard is that Matt's brother and his girlfriend at that time, they ended up having to move out of that house. The Navy had to move homes for them, because it got really aggressive, and whatever they were dealing with in there did not want them there. And that was not Sarah, and it was really unsettling for me. And to this day I don't really know how to explain it, but I thought it was really creepy.